Taupo, good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the panel. Just a quick note, I understand that members of the public were aware that the streaming for this particular room may not have been working earlier, and hope that's been rectified given the interest that's up here in the community. Greetings. First of all, as members of the Mangere Otahuhu Local Board, we acknowledge Member of Parliament Tauanu'u, of whom this bill is possible. My name is Tauanu'u Bakulich, and I'm the Chairperson of the Mangere Otahuhu Local Board, of which is one of 21 local boards in the Auckland super city. Firstly, I am Samoan, a descendant of the Ainga Sa'apualo of Ngākuli Sawai, and the Ainga Sa'aponuti and Tui Samoa of Aowai Palealili. I'm joined here today with my fellow local board members, Te o Harry Toleafoa, a Samoan, Joe Glassy Rasmussen, married to a Samoan, and Makalita Kolo, who loves Samoans. I'm also joined here with others from the local government body, fellow elected members who have come along to support us. Today, we've also seen another Samoan chairperson of the Otahuhu Papatoetoe local board, Pulu Rees, Aotearoa, and others who are in the room, including Larissa Henry, etc. As Samoans, we wear our hearts on our sleeves, and today I wear it on my shoulders through my blazer, which proudly has the Auckland Samoa Rugby Football Union, of which have strong ties to our ward, where they play the annual rugby tournaments at Aorere Park in Mangere East, and my tie, the Ponsonby Rugby Club, arguably the best rugby club in the world. A club which housed many Samoans and Pacific people during a time when clubs closed their doors on them in the 1960s. The Mangere Otahuhu Local Board has one of the highest Pacific populations in Tāmaki Makaurau, with over 60%. Many of these residents are Samoan. Samoan is the third most spoken language in Aotearoa. In Mangere Otahuhu Local Board area, we see many Samoans positively contributing across a variety of sectors, including education, sports, business, medicine, music, and the list goes on. We have produced some of the city's political leadership. Before me in this role was Lemonga Lydia Sorsene, a Samoan and now a Member of Parliament. And before her, Le'au Peter Skelton, a Samoan, and the first Super City Board, local board chairperson of Pasifika descent. Our current Manukau Ward councillors are Al Filipaina, member of New Zealand Order of Merit, a Samoan and of Māori blood. Lotu Fuli, a Samoan, also sitting on the Auckland Council governing body, is Councillor Josephine Bartley of Maungakiki Tāmaki, a Samoan. In Mangere Otahuhu, we have the strategic asset of Auckland international and domestic airports, the gateway to the nation. And as one former MP often reminded us, of Pitsosoa William Seal, again a Samoan, the airport where Samoans helped to build it today, you will find them still working in just about every arm of it. I could go on and on about Samoans, but I'm reminded by my relatives in the north, the kumara never speaks of a sweetness. However, to the panel chair and members, this is all but a reminder, as we have considered a number of things in supporting this bill. Firstly, we look at the year the Act was created, 1982. Now that should be of great interest to everybody, because it was only a year after the controversial tour of the Springboks in New Zealand during a time where the apartheid ran rife in South Africa. What on earth was the New Zealand government thinking at that time? Except to say, if the Muldoon government allowed a national rugby team that banned coloured and black players, then they can easily pull up the ladder from Samoans born between 1924 and 1 January 1949. How unfortunate, given this decision was not in the spirit of the Treaty of Friendship, a treaty designed to enable stronger ties between the two. We note the treaty was in existence for a whole 20 years, and we cannot find that the government at the time had considered it in its deliberations. Panel members, we also note that Radio New Zealand on the 11th of April 2024 reported that Member of Parliament Cameron Brewer, which I wish was in the room next door, had argued that the bill set a problematic legal precedent. Our reply to that is that we would not be in this position when the decision was made in 1982 to rescind citizenship. As one would say in modern speak, this is not a me problem, this is a you problem. If reversing this act would bring about problematic legal precedent, then why is it that we have not heard or seen of an overwhelming voice of opposition to this bill similar to that who was submitted during this process? There is an opportunity here for the Parliament of New Zealand to do good in rescinding this racist act. Therefore, we call all parties of the House to do so, and anything less would be to tell Samoans of that birth period that it was okay to deny them of rights and privileges as British subjects as ruled by the Privy Council. To do anything less would be a signal that not much has changed in political thinking and that a party is still hamstrung and caught up in the cigar-filled Parliament rooms of 1982. Panel Chair and your members, we have a number of recommendations. We would ask that, should this go through, that there be a waiver of all references where one needs to live in New Zealand for a certain time or are an ordinary resident as criteria for superannuation. This would allow not only for Samoans living in Aotearoa, but abroad to receive the superannuation forthwith. We would ask that there be a waiver of all application fees to obtain a New Zealand passport under the option of residency. That citizenship be accorded to those affected and their descendants, and the year being from 1914. And this is when New Zealand removed Germany and occupied Samoa. We reference that in 1919, the League of Nations had resolved to have New Zealand to administer Samoa. And in closing, we are aware, all of us, that we don't come here alone, but we come here we are here because of the prayers of those who've gone before. We are here because of their prayers to have the courage to participate in these processes. And it is them that we think of. Lastly, if I can ask everyone who knows the words from Le Kusipesio Le Whakasa, every morning we wake up and we remember our parents, our grandparents, who would sing for us at 5 a.m. so that days like this, that we would be able to see the day through. Eso suang mai pamon. Popola mai sulela ilongeo so isa ella isena Thank you, Madam Chair. We're quite happy to take any questions.
I'll ask the first one, which is the one that has been coming up, and that is about applying the bill to the descendants of those within the time frame that the scope of the bill currently looks at. And so obviously the question is about the immediate generation of descendants, and then others have also raised going further than that. So just very interested if the board has a position or if any of you have an individual position that you'd like to share with us.
Madam Chair, we understand that it would be a bit of a administrative nightmare. Look, for us as Samoans, our descendants go further than the nuclear family, aunties, uncles, in-laws, etc. But what I think would be possible is the nuclear family of those within that period.
It's just to sup on that, the question of split families has come up a lot. And so I guess, have you got any thoughts on that, where you might have siblings, some who have New Zealand citizenship and others who don't, and comes up quite a bit?
Well, we would figure, as the law stands, should the parents receive citizenship irrespective of what the siblings inherit the citizenship of their parents. So generally, the families or not, whatever the status is of their parents, the children will inherit. So if we're talking about their class that we've alluded to, they'll automatically receive citizenship. Should we go on the nuclear family, and as the law stands, other citizenship back.
Would you want that to say, for example, you have people from that original cohort who've both passed and they have children who are alive? Or do you want it extended to that generation? Given that you might get a situation where you have, just recognising a lot of the people who were actually eligible and had it taken away were alive and have now passed. Would you want to see it cover those people where both parents are no longer with us, but the next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we have to be mindful that some of those children and grandchildren may have either gone back to Samoa or haven't been able to come back in, or they were born in Samoa because of this act. And so opportunities were lost. And again, we refer back to the simple fact that they were eligible as citizens at that time.
We're running a bit ahead of time, and I just want to acknowledge that this is the local board.
Yes.
You know, so we're going to allow questions for a wee bit from the committee here, because I think, you know, you are the elected representatives of this area. So just want to note that. We're just going to give you that extra piece of time so we can really engage. Have you got a question, Tim Costley?
I just want to make sure I've heard really clearly. You had some recommendations at the end. I think the first was around waiving residency requirements for super, not for citizenship, because citizenship, there are already waivers for those. You're talking about waiving requirements to live here to receive New Zealand super, is that correct?
Correct.
And so that would apply to anyone who had citizenship restored as a result of this period. They would get super paid if they lived in New Zealand, if they lived in Samoa, if they lived somewhere else, like, I don't know, Australia?
Regardless, because I mean, you know, how much time has been exhausted since then? I mean, this is a matter of justice, which is you know, quite clear here. And it's also, you know, the political will should be there. The political will was there to remove citizenship away from Samoans, and now we're asking for the political will to put that back.
And so that would be, because the reason that would be different to any other New Zealander that, you know, leaves the country and doesn't get superannuation is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it sort of around reparation, what you're suggesting?
Well, how many other ethnic groups have had their citizenship rescinded?
So that's my question, is it reparation, in which case is it fair to those that only live maybe for 1 week past the date that took effect compared to those that live for 10 years? Or do you think there's some other way, some other form of reparation that you would be seeking, or is it just the superannuation element?
I'm not too sure whether I fully understand, but
So one could view it as reparation.
Yes.
What we're asking for is restitution for what would have actually been there had it not been removed. So I hope that provides clarity. So if this restitution means that we have unlimited access, or we're granting citizenship and also enables people to get superannuation,
Yes.
irrespective of whether they live in Samoa, New Zealand or whatnot, and let it be so. Because we're just putting in essentially, we're restoring or remedying what has essentially been taken. So we're not asking for reparations, we're just saying simply reinstate what would have been there had this act not been there.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. That's really clear. And how would you reconcile that with for what would have been there would be the requirement to live in New Zealand, you know, for 6 months of the year? Or, for example, if someone now got citizenship, a grandchild, as you really clearly advocated for, but maybe that grandchild lives in Australia and grows up their whole life in Australia, should they still get New Zealand superannuation as well, living in Australia?
Yeah, I see where your point lies in regards to the requirement for action and tears on fairness, but there's a number of issues that are at play, and one could see it as a kind of I wouldn't say restitution or a, as you put it, reparation, but yeah, it's essentially we're honouring what has been taken away. We're paying reference to Treaty of Friendship. And if this is what it actually looks like to waiver the residential requirements for this particular class of people and their descendants, then that's a step in the right direction. Now, we're very wide off what the bill is actually saying, but we acknowledge exactly potentially what that road might actually look like. But that's something that we're willing to go. It's a go hard or go home for us, because we believe essentially what has been committed, which is fundamentally wrong, can be actually corrected in your particular.
Okay, I understand. That's really clear. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think supplement to that is that obviously something's been taken away without a choice. And if should someone be brought up in Australia and wants to explore New Zealand citizenship, then sure, that choice should be accorded to them.
Okay. Andy's got a question, and then we'll wrap
Thank you. I want to explore a little bit more the superannuation bit as well, if I can. So there's a sort of sliding scale of, so if you were born in New Zealand, but you didn't live in New Zealand, there's a certain number of years you have to have lived in New Zealand post age 20 to get superannuation. And it's a sliding scale depending on the number of, on your age. You're arguing for something which is different to anybody else.
I'm not too sure
How
how
at the moment there is a requirement to be in New Zealand. Certainly it's at least 5 years from age 50, at least. And then there's a sliding scale which we've got all sorts of years. You know, for how are you arguing for something different to what would apply to anybody else?
we would be.
Yeah. Essentially, what we are advocating for is essentially the right to remove that waiver, simply in light of the injustice that's happened, and more importantly, to honour, the historical relationship and the alignment in which the New Zealand government oversaw Samoa. And so we see that as a potential step in the right direction, or whether, no matter how you frame it, whether it's reparations or restitution, that we're able to waive it. So I know that might be contentious, but we're swinging for the fences here, and we're not going to make any apologies for it.
Yeah, no, I guess you have to sort of make a judgment call about what every individual person would have done, or what every individual person's descendant might have done over a period of what we're now talking 100 years, which of course none of us could ever know what that might have been.
None of us would have known what that might have been, but
No.
we've seen what the material impacts are.
We understand that.
So now we've got an opportunity to correct it. And the position in which the chair is listed is one which removes just another barrier for us to be able to access not only citizenship, but also superannuation, which they would have otherwise acquired.
questions.
Can I just ask one more?
Yeah,
I
no, that's
have
fine.
no idea what the answer is.
Go for it.
Is there any superannuation in Samoa? And if so, what does it look like?
I understand.
I don't know.
A national providence fund, but you have members who are actually.
Yeah. Do we got a pension and stuff?
Just a national provident fund scheme.
And that's one you pay into as you go. Yeah. Just a bit like a Kiwi saver.
As far as I know.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, and as we leave and depart, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge members Bakulich, Tele, Reparations, and Tauanu'u Walter, who's also here, which is we're almost 100% in terms of which obviously demonstrates how we feel in regards to this on behalf of our constituents.
Oh, look, thank you on behalf of the committee for making a really detailed submission on behalf of your board, but also your community, and just want to acknowledge the role you play as fellow elected members. And please do stay for as long as you're able to listen to more submissions.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you, members. Yeah.